Good morning. Om Asato Ma Sadgamayo Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamayo Mrityurma Amritangamayo Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om. Lead us from the unreal to the real. Lead us from darkness to light. Lead us from death to immortality. Om. Peace, peace, peace. The subject of my today's talk is Guru and Disciple. Usually during this time, that means in the middle of July, we celebrate Guru Purnima, the full moon day dedicated to Guru. The reason is this, that on this particular day, great Guru, great teacher, great spiritual teacher, Vedavyasa was born. So this day is earmarked for paying respect to Gurus. In spirituality, there is a system that one should learn spirituality, one should learn spiritual practices from a teacher who has himself learned his spiritual practices, got the spiritual knowledge from a teacher, and in succession he also had got that knowledge from his previous teacher. So there is a succession of teachers in spirituality, especially in Hinduism. In other religion also, in Buddhism, in Jainism, in Sufism, and also in Eastern Orthodox, they have this system. One needs to learn spiritual practices from a person who is adept in it. The tradition is common, but it is not absolutely necessary that a teacher should have a teacher. But the reason is this, that to learn something, we need some help. I want to know something, so I go to a school. Why do I go to a school? I can buy books, read and study and learn things. That we do also. Nowadays, anything that you want to learn, you can have from the internet. But that learning is not really complete. And also, that type of learning cannot take away doubts. But if you go to a teacher who is adept in that subject, other than the spirituality I am talking, you will be able to know things correctly and with confidence. So the person who has learned it and has practiced it for a long time, he has grown confidence in the subject other than the knowledgeable parts about the subject. So the imparting this confidence or knowledge with confidence happens if we go to a teacher. That is why in spirituality, the tradition is to get a tradition for a student to learn spirituality from a teacher. That is very important. So it is important also to know who is a teacher. In secular matter, we see that we have different institutions. Suppose I want to go to a college to study a subject, say mathematics. So naturally, I shall find out a school where there is a teacher who can teach mathematics. Then even if I am still curious, probably I shall find out how far this teacher has learned and what is his knowledge and whether that is compatible for my desire to learn. All teachers of mathematics may not be knowing all the branches of mathematics. So if I want to learn some special subject or special section of the mathematics, then I would like to find a teacher who actually has studied that, and not only that, is a specialist on that subject. So in that way, we see that we have that provision in secular matters. Especially in medicine, there are so many specializations. After school, after general education in medicine, people go for specialization. Then they go for super specialization. Not only that, they have to renew their knowledge, because knowledge is always expanding. So as the things are being discovered or found out or specialized, so that also need to be acquired. So we go to a person who is knowledgeable of that subject. So this is a system, and it is a commonsensical that one should learn something from a learned person. So in spirituality, we see from ancient time this system of teacher and student, guru and disciple, guru and shishya as it is called. Guru is a word which has become a common word in English even today. But shishya has not come that common, but student is quite adequate to describe a person who is a learner. So if in spiritual field, if I want to go to learn something, naturally I would like to know what should be the qualification of a spiritual teacher. So and in scriptures especially we see that it is a serious matter. That means in all spiritual literature it has been described that a teacher should possess certain qualities. And if he possesses this quality, then he will be competent to impart the spiritual knowledge to a disciple. There is no, what is called, in secular education we see that there are licensing authorities. But in spirituality, there is nothing like that. It goes by tradition or lineage, as it is called. As I told you at the beginning, Vyasa is considered to be Adi Guru in a modern sense. Vyasa also had his teacher that we see. I shall tell you that how actually he came to what is the succession of teachers. But he had left. He is considered to be what is called in recent time. He is considered to be the teacher from which actually we draw our lineage. So the reason is that during Vyasa's time, say about 3000 years before Christ, he was born. There is no certain date about his birth, but definitely there is a date from the point of view of the stars. That means from the point of view when, on what day actually of the season or year he was born, that is Vyasa Purnima. That means this full moon day of this July, August is earmarked for him, because he was born according to our scriptures on that particular day. But in which year, that is not really, that is very difficult to figure out. Whatever it may be, Vyasa's time, the scriptures that had come down traditionally in Hinduism, the Vedas, they were very much scattered. Scattered in a sense that it was taught or it was learned from different teachers, and they are not very organized, and nobody knew correlations and all those things. So what Vyasa did, he himself mastered the Vedas, and then actually he gave the responsibility of teaching certain sections of the Vedas to his disciples. So in that way he had 4 disciples who actually took care of the 4 Vedas, Rig, Sam, Yajur, Atharva. Previously probably all the students had to learn all the Vedas, but after him the specialization came. That means one Veda was accomplished or learned by one disciple. And he actually in his turn taught to his disciples. In that way, continuity remained. So in that way, Vyasa is respected because he revived, not only revived, he made a practical arrangement for the propagation and preservation of the Vedas, which is the fundamental scriptures of Hinduism. And in his line we see that later on Shankaracharya was the teacher. So he had his disciples, then the disciples had their disciples, and in that way ultimately we see Shankaracharya came when again the scriptures were reorganized, if you can say. Reorganized in a sense that means the meaning and explanation of the scriptures needed to be revised. Because in the name of scriptures, many things come, because scriptures contain something which is beyond our mind. That means it requires many analogies, many examples, and in that way the original theme of the scriptures get lost. So they need to be revised, and in that way he did that, and that is why he is considered to be a great teacher in the modern time. Of course, his time is 8th century, which is not too modern, but definitely he left a lineage which actually is still continuing. And in the if we study the life of Shankaracharya, we see that he has very distinctly taught how the teaching should be made, and who will be a teacher, and what will be his qualification, and what needs to be taught, and also what will be the qualification of a student. Because everybody cannot learn scriptures and everybody cannot realize God. That is very true. Otherwise, all of them would have self-realization. That doesn't happen. That everybody cannot become a doctor or engineer, and they need to be taught, and certain qualification is important for being a student of any subject. So in the same way, Shankaracharya delineated that these are the qualifications of a teacher, and this is the subject that need to be taught, and these are the qualifications of a student who are competent to learn this subject. So that tradition has come down even today, and that is being followed by almost every branch of spirituality that is being taught in India. So let us see what are the little elaboration of this subject of teacher and student, guru and shishya means. So what is that word guru means? Guru means the dispeller of ignorance. That is the shortest meaning of guru. Ignorance means ignorance of spirituality. Spiritual subject is really beyond mind. Not only it is not secular, definitely. That means it cannot be perceived or heard by your senses, because senses has got their limitation. You can get skill in certain profession with your senses. That means eyes, ears, hands, taste, and other organs that we actually have. But spirituality is beyond even mind. Through mind actually we can learn many things. That means if some idea is there, we can learn that idea. And different expressions are there which actually we can perceive. Meanings and all those things, or words and all those things we can learn through our minds. So in that way, mind is also helpful in the process of learning. But spirituality is beyond the mind. So that is the difficulty of the spirituality. So this is called ignorance, means anything that you learn through your senses, through your mind, are really considered to be ignorance in the with respect to spiritual knowledge. That means highest knowledge that will give us illumination, and the most what is called lucrative result of that, we shall be able to get rid of a cycle of birth and death. That means we are born again and again. So if we get that knowledge, we shall be able to stop our rebirth. That of course needs to be understood. Especially in Hinduism, Buddhism, and all the Eastern religion believe that we are born again and again. That means soul is initially immortal, but it has lost its immortality because it has got entangled into this world through the mind, through the attachment of the mind and senses to the worldly things. That needs to be clear. That means that needs to be overcome. This attachment needs to be subdued, and then actually we shall get the highest knowledge, spiritual illumination. So this is the point that actually Guru helps in understanding, and also Guru helps in the those who are interested. He actually can impart the process by which it can be done. So the word Guru itself means a dispeller of this ignorance. Now, in Hinduism, as I told you, like Hinduism or Buddhism and Eastern religion, there is the importance of Guru, but it doesn't mean that it is compulsory, because spiritual knowledge can be had by one's own effort also, but it is very rare. Very rare in a sense that means you can imagine that if you want to go to a place, suppose you have heard the name of the place. So you know the name of a place, say, what is called San Jose. So naturally, nowadays of course GPS is there, but in ancient time there is no GPS. So you have to figure out how to go there. Somebody will say that go to the north, go to the northeast, go to the west, or go to the south. In that way, you have to find out persons who are knowledgeable, and some of them are not really quite knowledgeable, but they on that turn also have learned the directions. In that way, there will be a lot of wastage of time, and also you have to be patient also. So in that way, ultimately, probably you will be able to reach the goal, but it will be very difficult and tiresome. So a teacher actually helps in that way, like GPS. GPS will tell you, not only tell you, nowadays GPS is so perfect that it will tell these are the routes that is there, which route actually you want to take, shorter or longer, or which is time consuming or less traffic. It is your choice, in what way you want to reach the goal, reach the destination. So naturally, we would like to have a sort of GPS in spirituality, and Guru's function is like that. He himself is adept in spirituality, he has studied scriptures, and in that way he can really figure out the requirement. Another part of the teacher is to impart teaching according to the capacity of the student. Student may be maybe of different capacities. Capacities come in this way that suppose somebody has learned about spirituality and he is very interested in practicing that, but he does not have any background. Probably he has not studied scriptures, anything he does not know. He has just heard about that. So naturally it will be very difficult for him to conceive or to get the idea of what is really spirituality and how much effort it has to be made, what is the goal, and what type of practices that needed to be done. So he has to be given a type of instruction that will be suitable for him. But suppose there is a student like, say, Shankaracharya. If you read the life of Shankaracharya, you will find that when he went to a teacher, he was almost, that means like a teacher. That means he has learned all the scriptures. And not only learned the scriptures, he himself had practiced what has been said in the scriptures. Then he found that something is really lacking. So then he started his journey to find a teacher. So when he came to his teacher, we see in those days it was very difficult. You can imagine 8th century, and in India probably he had to walk all the way from the southern part of India to the middle part of India, where he had heard that there is a teacher, and Govindapada, his name was Gaurupada, actually name he had heard. So he came to know that he lives in the middle part, that means on the bank of the Narmada river. So naturally he had to walk all the way, and in that way, after a long time, when he reached a destination, as I told you that in the finding the destination also you have to take the help of many people who will give you guidance. So naturally it took a long time. And when he reached there, actually he found that the name that he had heard about Gaurupada, he has passed on. So his Gaurupada had a student, his name was Govindapada. He said that, well, Gaurupada has passed away, but I can teach you. So when he was taught that, and Govindapada actually found that he is he is full of knowledge. That means he has studied all the scriptures and he knows what is the objective of spiritual practice, what is the goal of life, and all those things. Actually, he has mastered all those things. So when he imparted the spiritual knowledge, that means that real practice, meditation, immediately, that means it is said that within 3 or 4 days, actually, he had the highest realization. He understood his true self. So the teacher himself actually was surprised that how quickly the student actually learned it. In many cases, actually, after practicing years after years and practicing meditation for a long time, practicing the disciplines for many, many months, and austerities and all those things, one can come to know about reach the highest goal. But in case of Shankaracharya, it was as almost instant. Just 4 days. Can you imagine that within 4 days, after knowing that this is the meditation that we have to do, one can have the self-realization. So the point is this, that means there are differences in the capacity of a student. And that is also the important thing that a teacher should know, and he should impart teachings according to the requirement of the student. So naturally, this is one of the qualifications of a teacher. He should be, in ordinary case, we see that it may be like this, that all the teachers may not be self-realized, might not have self-realization. Probably himself is a practitioner. But what will be the situation? It is not easy to get a teacher who has the self-realization. Swami Vivekananda said in one place that probably 6 or 7 persons in this world will be self-realized person. That means they have reached a goal. But if we do not know, and they do not advertise that I am self-realized person, even if they advertise, probably shall not be able to know that he is a self-realized person. So this ambiguity is there. So naturally, the point is that if we cannot find such a teacher who is self-realized, should we stop doing spiritual practices? So in the scriptures it is also said that whenever there is a desire to learn spirituality, that means when you want to get self-realization, you should, what is called, just when the light, when there is a little bit of flame that has come in your mind for spiritual quest, actually try to, what is called, protect it, or try to increase that desire. So that is that has been said in our scripture, and that is commonsensical, that even if I do not find a good teacher, I need to sustain the desire of how it is called, spiritual knowledge and spirituality. So in that way, naturally, I should like to go to a person who is more knowledgeable. And such teachers are also there who themselves are practicing according to the instructions of their teachers, and also they are studying the scriptures, and also have practiced spirituality for a long time. They are also definitely a very competent teacher. And another aspect is that means the spiritual knowledge that has come down to us is really well-kept knowledge. Well-kept knowledge in a sense that means the impartation of the spiritual knowledge, ultimate impartation of the spiritual knowledge comes through a sort of what is called mantra or some sacred words that we see. And these sacred words actually originated from the very early time. Say Vyasa. So Vyasa, in our scriptures it is written that there are Mahavakyas which to be repeated. And as time passed, different names or different sacred words and just not invented, but they are really found out. They cannot be invented, but they can be found out. Found out in this way, that means suppose somebody had the self-realization. So naturally he will find that, well, this is a very difficult thing. Everybody does not know Sanskrit, how they utter it. So let me try to find out some other way of reaching the goal. So probably he will try to find out a word or a few words which actually can take to the self-realization. And being a self-realized person, it will be very easy because he is already disciplined and he knows the process. So he can use the new method, and in that way if he is successful, then actually it becomes a sacred word. That means the path is really found out. So if you think of Sri Ramakrishna, actually this point will be clarified. That means Sri Ramakrishna had the opportunity of having the self-realization through the worship of Divine Mother. So how did he get it? He had to take initiation, and he took because it is a tradition those who want to do this mother's worship, they need to be initiated by a person who is already initiated in that tradition. So he got the mantra from a teacher. His teacher, of course, was a householder priest, Kinaram Bhattacharya, as far as I remember. So with that, he started doing priestly activities, that means worship and all those things. So then actually he became very intense in knowing, in having the self-realization or having the vision of Mother God. So ultimately we see that he was successful, that means he realized or had the vision of Divine Mother. That is the goal and also the objective of the practice. Then he became curious. That means, well, other people are also practicing their spirituality in different ways. So other mantras are there. So he got hold of teachers, and in that way also he practiced. And ultimately he was successful, having followed those mantras and practices and had the highest realization. The point is that the realization that comes is one. But he had the realization through different mantras and different practices. So in that way, a bunch of what is called sacred words he got. So in this way we see in different traditions also there are different sacred words or practices that has come down, and that is being imparted by the teacher. So in this way actually the teacher actually imparts the disciple what is called shows the path or practices by which one can reach the goal. So this is the way it is done, but as I told you, there are some rare exceptions when you see that in our scriptures also it has been meant that without a particular person as a teacher, one can have the self-realization. Very important, very distinct example is there in Bhagavatam. There was a roving mendicant. He was known as Avadhuta. So Avadhuta actually used to travel from one place to another. That type of mendicant used to take a vow that, well, I shall not stay in one place for maybe 3 days, whatever he decided, probably 5 days, 7 days. In that way, he used to take a vow that I shall not stay in one place for so many days. So he was such a person, Avadhuta. So he used to roam about because of his vow. So he was moving around, and one king actually saw him. That means this person is a little different. Though he has a dress of a roving mendicant, but all roving mendicants are not really same. He has some peculiarity or particular that drew the attention of the king. So he called him and asked him, why are you moving around? How actually you have got your spiritual knowledge and all those things. He started inquiring, and then Avadhuta told him that, well, I do not have a particular teacher, because everybody knew that to do spiritual practices, one should have a particular teacher. So he did not follow any tradition or did not follow any teacher. Then the king said that, well, then how actually you got your spiritual knowledge? Are you realized? He said that, yes, I have reached the goal that I was seeking. And I do not have a special spiritual teacher, but I learned my spirituality from different objects by my own observation. By observing such and such incident, or by observing such and such creature, or such and such person, I learned spirituality, and that with the help of those learning, actually, I have reached my goal. He was a realized person. So he had actually 24 gurus. Can you imagine? One teacher is enough for one person, but he had 24 entities who actually acted as a teacher for this person. So the point is this, that it is not exactly a must, but it is necessary. That means, as I told you at the beginning, that if you want to learn something, some mathematics, certain branch of mathematics, naturally, if you go to the what is called in Google search, or you can buy some books, and if you start learning, it will be very difficult and time consuming. You may not have a good luck as the Avadhuta. But if you are serious, actually, you will be going to a teacher who knows the subject. Same thing applies to ordinary persons like us, that we should go to a teacher who knows the mantram, that means by which actually he has been taught, and also the way actually that he has been asked to practice. He may not be the highest self-realized person. If you are lucky, probably you get a person who has the highest realization, but it doesn't matter, because he has saved the mantram that has been given by his teacher, and his teacher also have got that what is called the mantram from his teacher. In that way, there must be somebody in the lineage who has got that mantram after was successful having the realization with the help of that sacred word. So that sacred word has been kept, a precious sacred word has been kept, and they have that it has come down, so it will work. That is, it has not been changed, so it will work. And the discipline that the person is really practicing is also the traditional practice. So in that way also there is a possibility that practicing that, we shall also be able to reach the goal. So this is the what is called chalked plan of spirituality according to what is called those who follow the guru and disciple, guru and shishya, that means teacher and student tradition. So the role of the guru is to impart this knowledge. As I told you, he himself should be competent, and also he should check the competence of the student, and then actually he should impart the knowledge. Now there are certain questions in modern times whether the teacher has to be male or female, or it can be both. Actually, in ancient times we see the most of the teachers were male, that means in our scripture, but definitely there are female teachers also. But nowadays we see there are many, that means anybody can be a teacher if one has practiced spirituality according to a particular system. In that way actually they become competent. Now, whether it is possible that in the present day sometimes it becomes doubtful, that means if you probably you are not satisfied with a teacher, and you are not impressed by the tradition because of poor knowledge. That means you are in a remote place, and in the surrounding areas, or tradition, or country, there is no possibility of following a good path. But suddenly you found a teacher who are really knowledgeable, and you became a disciple of that person. So after some time, probably you discover that, well, he is not satisfied. That means he is a teacher, maybe because nobody is around. So just like what is called a doctor. So in a remote village, a doctor practices his medicine. So he may be curing some diseases, but definitely when what is called the disease is very acute, probably he will have to refer to some other doctor, or probably will drop out of that what is called doctor's instructions and find out a better doctor. So in guru, in a spiritual field also, sometimes it is necessary to switch gurus. It happens, as you know, in case of Buddha. Buddha knew that he needs a teacher, so he renounced. He was a prince, he renounced. That means he wanted to find the end of sorrow, because he saw sorrow is the bane of the life. So is there any way by which one can overcome sorrow? So he went to different teachers, 2 teachers we know that he approached. But definitely they were not that competent, he discovered very soon, because when he went there, so they were very much what is called impressed by a Buddha, because he was a prince. And to get a disciple who is a prince definitely adds to the reputation. And not only that, they said that, well, be a disciple and stay here to spiritual practice, and after my passing away, you will be a teacher. In that way, they showed him and tried to entice him also. So Buddha, being a what is called appropriate seeker, he understood all those ploys, and then he actually switched. That means he left, and ultimately he did his own practice. That is, in a practice means his practice is really very important to know. He actually tried to figure out during the meditation, what are the experiences that I had in my life. So, as we know that he was confined in a palace, that means in a palace ground, a big property from which he could not really go out. That means he has limitations in his movement. And he used to learn things, do things and see things, and in that way he started to scroll his mind and try to figure out what, if I have an incident in my life which was really very peaceful, very, what is called, remarkable from the point of view of serenity of the mind. So he figured out, that means in scrolling the mind, he actually remembered an incident where actually he had the experience of serenity, as it is called. And he started doing meditation on that. And by doing that meditation, actually he was successful. That means his mind became more concentrated, more calm, and ultimately calming of the mind means the progress in spirituality. And ultimately he had the highest realization. That means suddenly he had the realization of the nirvana, as it is called. And after having this nirvana, actually he wanted to master it. So repeatedly actually he practiced for a long time, and when he mastered it actually, then he thought that, well, my purpose is to teach the world with that object in my life, or with that desire in my mind. Actually I have learned it. It is not that I just wanted to get rid of this world for myself only. Just for my liberation I did not really search this. So after mastering this process, he started teaching, that we know. So this is the way actually Guru works. That means when he becomes competent, he is capable of what is called imparting the knowledge. Now, definitely there are some protocols that needed to be found, and that needs to be that has been delineated. So let us go through those what is called protocols that has been said in our different scriptures. Especially the books that we follow. Vivek Chudamani is a very good book, where actually all those things have been discussed in detail by Shankaracharya. It's time to time we read that book, what is called verse by verse, and that book gives a very good knowledge about what is spirituality, what is the goal, who is competent teacher, who is a competent student, what we shall get after doing spiritual practice, what are the obstructions that may come, how to overcome them, and in that way it is a very good handbook of spirituality. So we see that this relationship is the first important thing. That means Guru-Shishya relationship is deeper, sublime and purest. That means we have different types of relationship in this world. That means what is called the father-mother, son or daughter, that type of relationship is their brotherhood. there is a relationship, then wife and husband relationship is there. Then there are teacher and student in school and colleges. Then friends are there. Different types of relationships are there in our world. In the society, we live, we encounter different type of relationship, master and servant. This type of relationships are quite common if we just observe in this world. But this relationship between the teacher and student from the spiritual point of view is really completely different. It is actually sublime, as it is called. You do not know, or the teacher also do not know why he actually wants to teach the student, because he had that knowledge and he has himself actually has benefited by that knowledge, and he feels that this knowledge will be helpful to the other person. And in that spirit actually, he actually imparts that knowledge. No gain, nothing to gain from the impartation of knowledge except just to give this knowledge so that other person also can enjoy it. So that is that type of what is called relationship is not there in the social circumstances. That is why it is called unique relationship. So that naturally from that we can see that there is certain qualities that a spiritual teacher should have. Now, spiritual Veda, he should be versed in scriptures. That means that is the first thing. That means he should be knowledgeable about scripture. That means there might be some teachers who are not really versed in scriptures. Say Sri Ramakrishna. He did not study scriptures, but he knew the what is called the essence of the scriptures. Because in the scriptures, what has been mentioned, he has acquired those things by doing spiritual practice. So he had practical knowledge of spirituality, which has been dealt in the scriptures. Otherwise also you see in his case, he had heard scriptures. In those days, if you are not really learned, you need to listen to other knowledgeable person, and in that way also one can get knowledge. So the point is that one should be versed in the scriptures. Then one should be pure. Purity means purity in what is called the habits and what is called dealings, and not only attitude and in thoughts, words and deeds as it is called. So that purity is one of the criteria of a good teacher. Then free from lust, enjoyment, in your sense enjoyments, that should be another criteria. Then there is a desire for, there should not be a desire for profit. Profit in a sense, that means, as I told you, in case of Buddha, the two teachers that he had encountered, they wanted to have some profit. Profit means, that means they wanted to have some name and fame by making a prince their student. Not only that, they wanted that if he comes there, so he what is called, he will find a good successor also. So these are the motives that were at the back of their minds. That is actually a negative point for a teacher. He shouldn't have any desire for profit, no gain, not only monetary but other gains also, reputation or such other things. Then should be calm. That means he should, naturally it will be a demeanor will be calmness, because he has progressed in spirituality. As a person progresses in spirituality, his senses, mind actually becomes more control. More control means, that means calmness descends on him. So that is one of the criteria. Then compassionate also. Compassionate means, that means there is no reason why one should really give spiritual knowledge. Just out of love or out of what is called the joy of giving this or imparting this knowledge, so that other person also can enjoy this, what is called this joyfulness. So with that intention actually he gives. That means he does not really force to do that. It is after compassion actually he gives this knowledge. And of course, if he is a good teacher, so he should have the highest knowledge, that means Mara Brahma. So Shankaracharya or Shankaracharya's teacher, they were all very knowledgeable and what is called, they had the highest realization. In our case, we see Sri Ramakrishna or Swami Vivekananda, we see that they had realized, they are realized souls, and naturally and also automatically they had all the qualifications of a good teacher. And as I told you, the first teacher was God himself, and God gave that knowledge to, according to our Puranas, scriptures, to Brahma. He was the first teacher. If somebody asks, who was the first teacher, who gave the spiritual knowledge, according to Vedanta or Hinduism? Brahma. That means he was the appointed person, created person by God himself. And he has his, what is called, children or disciples, whom actually he imparted, and in that way that tradition has come down till today. And it has been said in the scripture that Bhag Boikhari, Shabda Jhari, Sastro Vyakhana Kaushalam, Boidusham, Vidushanta, Bad Bhukta Natu Mukta. It is Shankaracharya's very famous saying. If a person is really very adept in scriptures, can give good talks and spirituality or scriptures, can explain scriptures, can debate on scriptures very well. And those things are really signs of education or sign of a learning, not actually helpful for the liberation. So we have to be not exactly careful. We should know that just a person who can really explain or quote scriptures is really a person who is really knowledgeable about spirituality. Then it is also important that a teacher can guide a student from different scriptures. Shabdajalam Maharanam. That means there are so many scriptures, there are many so books. So many teachers have left their instructions, so one can get flabbergasted what one should follow. So actually that at the beginning, actually when we go through them, we see that mind actually travels from here to there and we do not find the way. So we have to know that just scriptures cannot really help a person to have the self-realization. And ultimately, a person who has the highest knowledge, he is the best teacher. So, Ajnana Timirandhasya, Jnananjana Salakaya, Chokshu Menitam Jena, Tasmai Sri Gurave Namo. That means a person who had that real knowledge, and also all the, what is called, qualifications that has been described earlier, he is the best teacher. That means he is the competent person who can really drive away. Ignorance means the lack of knowledge of spirituality just by mere touch or mere word or by what is called, by imparting the mantrams. In that way, so we can do that. Now coming to a little bit about what are the qualifications of a student. As I told you in the book of this Shankaracharya's book, he has very nicely delineated the qualifications. So there we see a student should be intelligent. Intelligent means should be focused on the subject which he wants to learn. Deep desire for learning actually makes a person intelligent. That means he learns by listening, by seeing, and by practicing. In that way he progresses. So that is a sign of intelligence. And of course, learned in scripture, that means he should know the ABC of spirituality. You, what is called, read one book and you become learned about the scriptures. It doesn't happen in that way. So you have to Shabdajalam Maharana. That means it may not be that many, but at least some books and some ideas about spirituality needs to be learned. So when a person first approaches a teacher for learning spirituality, the teacher will ask that, well, you read this book, that book, have you read this book, and how do you find it, which book you like, all those queries actually are meant. The reason is that he should know actually what he needs to know. That is the main important thing. Then actually, who discriminates between real and unreal. Real and unreal means some people, almost all of us actually were longing for something which is really, we think, the objective of this life. Some people money, some people reputation, some people property, In that way, there are different objectives of the life, and they think that is the real thing of the life. But one should know by studying scriptures or by learning from the teacher that ultimately real means what is the goal of life. That means why I am born. That is the question. So the search for that is really a real thirst. That means then actually other things that are there in their life, there may be reputation, money or property and all those things, they are really unreal. The reason is this, that means when we die, we shall not be able to take all those things with us. So, but if we have the spiritual knowledge, self-realization, then actually even if we do not have those things, even if we lose our body, actually we gain what is really permanent. That is that type of knowledge one should have. What is really real and what is really unreal. Now, adverse to the enjoyment of fruits here and after. That means after practicing, if you think that Buddha has a little bit desire to share the knowledge, but that is really a desire many teachers will like to have. But the point is that if you think that after having the spiritual knowledge, I shall have large number of followers, and then actually I shall have a very, what is called great reputation, then I shall have big, what is called temples and such other things erected, then I shall have a big organization which will really propagate my, what is called thoughts. If those desires are there, actually it will be what is called the wrong thing. So it is said averse to enjoyment of fruits here and hereafter. That means here means a teacher or what is called a learner, if he thinks that by acquisition of spiritual knowledge I shall gain something in this world, that will be a wrong decision. One should renounce all the desires that actually in material life we really like to have. That type of desire needs to be overcome. Then of course virtues are there, certain virtues, practices. Because we are very disorganized about our habits and thoughts and all those things, they need to be organized. Certain habits and thoughts are really not suitable for spiritual practice. So there is a list that she has gone, 6 virtues. Sometimes it is designated as 6 treasures that need to be acquired. We want to have treasures. Treasures means wealth or property, name, fame, these are the treasures. But in spirituality, there are certain treasures earmarked, which are tranquility, self-control, then composed mind, then of course endurance, that means patience, and also faith, and also what is called steadiness in the objective, and of course desire for liberation. These are the things that need to be constantly practiced. Many people actually will think that, well, I have practiced these things for a long time, so do I need to practice these things further for spiritual progress? The point is that this should be a part of the life. That is the goal. That means once you start practice, actually it will become a part of your life. You may not be able to know that you have mastered them, but other people, those who are not practicing, will be able to figure out that, oh, this person actually has a lot of patience. So there are situations like that. So point is that there is no end of practice, only thing that you have to get habituated to these practices. It will be part of your life. So in this way we see that there are different practices that need to be done by the student, and then actually one becomes a competent student. So these are the things that came to my mind on this occasion of this Guru Purnima, how actually spiritual knowledge comes, how actually the spiritual knowledge is given, and who actually is the receiver of this knowledge. If we know all those things, then actually we can make a decision, or those who have already taken a decision, they can recount all those things and progress in the spiritual life. Next Sunday, we have a guest speaker, Swami Prapannananda. He is a very well-known speaker, and he will speak on what is Vedanta. And this talk will be in the retreat area. As you know that we hold our Guru Punya function near the Shankaracharya statue in our retreat area, Santodan, Garden of Saints. So since we are not celebrating Guru Purnima this year, because on Guru Purnima day we have to go to San Francisco to attend a special ceremony. So we have requested Swami Prapannananda to give a talk on what is Vedanta in that place, that means near the Shankaracharya statue. It will be quite appropriate, and since a good speaker, we are expecting a large number of people will come to listen to him. That is on Sunday, July 17th at 11 a.m. in the retreat area. Swami Prapannananda will speak on what is Vedanta. And we have started our summer retreat. Usually, all through these years, Swami Chaitanya used to come. But this year, Swami Prapannananda will come to give the retreat. That will be on Saturday, July 16th from 10 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. There will be a recess of half an hour in between, and after the talk there will be refreshments. That means instead of full lunch, we shall give some refreshments. As you know, we are still not fully recovered from COVID, because there are still advices that you should be careful. So we have arranged this retreat in this way. And all the registration has been completed, and if you want to get registered, you have to wait. That means if there is a cancellation, then only actually you can attend this retreat in person. But this retreat will be definitely online, so there is no problem in attending from remote places. And after this Sunday talk, we shall close for summer vacation, and there will be no class and Sunday lecture. And also the Sunday worship will be performed at 10 a.m. and evening Vesper service will not be there during this recess. And we shall open on 28th August up to 27th, our summer recess will continue. That means from July 18th to August 27th. Classes and lectures will remain suspended. But bookstore might be open, and there will be announcement in the bookstore on which days they will remain open, and in which hours also they will remain open. Om madhuvatarithayate madhuksharanti sindhavaha madhi irno santoshadhihi madhunakta mutosasi madhumat parthivagam rajaha madhudaurastuna pita madhumanna vanaspatihi madhumapangastu suryaha madhirgavo bhavantunah. Om Madhu, Madhu, Madhu. Sweet by the winds and the oceans give forth blessedness. May the earth and plants bring us health and happiness. Sweet unto us with the nights and dawns. May every particle of Mother Earth be charged with blessings. May the heavens shower us with benediction. Sweet unto us with the noble forest trees. Sweet unto us with the shining sun. Sweet unto us with the all living creation. Om, sweetness, harmony, peace.